The world often confuses intelligence with effectiveness. We live in an age where cognitive ability is glorified. IQ scores, academic qualifications, technical expertise, all of these are held up as symbols of success. But raw intelligence, without the ability to connect with others, is like a sword with no handle. It may be sharp, but it's dangerous even to the one who wields it. Many of the most brilliant minds fail not because they lack ideas, but because they lack the social dexterity to present those ideas in ways others can trust, accept, and align with. They think they need to be the smartest in the room, when in reality, they need to be the most attuned. Social intelligence bridges the gap between knowledge and influence. It is the art of making people feel understood, respected, and valued, even when you are leading them, persuading them, or disagreeing with them. True effectiveness in life does not come from knowing more, it comes from understanding people better. You can memorize every theory, strategy, and system, but if you cannot read the people you are dealing with, you will misjudge, miscommunicate, and miss the moment. The socially intelligent person doesn't seek to impress with facts. They seek to align through insight. They don't dominate conversations. They direct them subtly, guiding energy, building trust, and creating space for others to be heard. This is the secret behind extraordinary leadership, enduring relationships, and sustainable influence. It's not about what you know, it's about how you make others feel in your presence. Do they feel seen? Do they feel heard? Do they feel safe to reveal their truth? If the answer is yes, you've already won, because emotional security is the gateway to loyalty and trust. The world is full of people with knowledge, but very few with wisdom. Knowledge tells you what people do. Social intelligence reveals why they do it, and that distinction changes everything. It allows you to lead, serve, influence, and build without friction, because you're not operating blindly. You're engaging with awareness. That's what places someone ahead of 99%. Not louder voices or sharper minds, but deeper understanding. Most people are fixated on what others say, but social intelligence is rooted in what others don't say. Beneath every sentence is an emotion, a belief, a hidden motivation that shapes the real message. Words are only the surface. The socially intelligent person learns to listen beneath the surface, to read the pauses between phrases, the shifts in tone, the slight flicker in someone's eyes when they feel discomfort or hesitation. They are attuned not only to verbal communication, but to posture, silence, rhythm, and energy. This silent language, body language, micro-expressions, emotional signals is more truthful than any speech, and those who master it gain a level of insight that logic alone can never provide. Understanding people means understanding tension. It means sensing when someone is masking frustration with a smile or disguising fear with bravado. It's the ability to detect emotional dissonance, the moments when someone's words don't match their energy. Most ignore these cues. They push ahead with their agenda, oblivious to the disconnect. But the socially intelligent individual adjusts in real time. They recognize that true communication isn't just about talking, it's about tuning in. They don't rush to respond. They watch, they feel, they mirror, not to manipulate, but to reflect safety, to show that they understand without needing to be told. This ability to perceive what others miss is what sets socially intelligent people apart. They don't rely on guesswork or assumptions. They observe patterns, store emotional data, and read the room like a seasoned strategist reads a battlefield. And once they have a read, they don't push, they align. Because the goal isn't control, the goal is connection. Influence that lasts is not built on pressure, it's built on resonance. When you speak to what people feel but haven't said, they trust you. They lean in, they open up, and that is when real conversations begin, not at the surface level, but at the level where transformation happens. Social intelligence is not a performance, it's a perception, clear, calm, and unmistakably powerful. Before one can master others, one must master oneself. Social intelligence begins not with observation of others, but with control over one's own internal state. Emotional discipline is the foundation. Without it, awareness becomes distorted, perception becomes reactive, and communication becomes impulsive. The person who cannot manage their own emotions is constantly at the mercy of others, triggered by tone, thrown off by disagreement, silenced by judgment. They respond to pressure with frustration, to conflict with defensiveness, and to resistance with force. But the socially intelligent individual is governed by clarity, not chaos. They are not easily provoked. They don't allow the noise of the moment to drown out the wisdom of their judgment. Self-control is not about suppression. It's about recognition and regulation. It's knowing the difference between what you feel and how you respond. It's being able to pause in the space between stimulus and reaction. That pause is where your power lives. The person who can feel anger but not act out of it, who can feel insulted but not retaliate, who can feel fear and still move forward, that person possesses the kind of inner strength that can't be taught in books. Emotional discipline doesn't silence emotion, it simply chooses not to be ruled by it. This is what gives socially intelligent individuals their composure, their presence, their quiet authority. The mind that is still can see clearly, and when you see clearly, you don't react, you respond. Reactions are instinctive, responses are intentional. The world is full of people who react, who speak without thinking, who lash out when threatened. That is average. But the person who remains calm under pressure, who maintains grace in discomfort, who can take in any situation without emotional distortion, that person commands respect. Emotional control isn't weakness, it's the highest form of strength. It is the doorway to influence, because no one trusts a leader who cannot lead themselves. When you have mastered your emotions, you become the thermostat in the room, not the thermometer. You set the tone, you create the atmosphere, and others begin to follow, not because you demand it, but because you embody it. Observation is the quiet weapon of the socially intelligent. While most people listen to speak, the socially intelligent listen to understand, not just the words, but the reasoning behind them, the tone they're wrapped in, and the emotional weight they carry. They watch patterns. They notice what others dismiss. They study inconsistencies, track emotional changes, and remember the details others forget. This is not about being suspicious. It's about being aware. The average person hears a statement and takes it at face value. The socially intelligent person hears a statement and wonders, what's behind it? What's missing? What does this reveal about the person's mindset, fears, values, or priorities? People reveal themselves in subtle, repeated ways, in how they speak about others, in what they avoid, in what topics ignite their passion or defensiveness. The one who observes is never truly surprised. They've already seen the clues. They've already felt the tension. This is the true nature of psychological insight, noticing what is not obvious. Most walk through life half aware, scanning for what confirms their assumptions. But the socially intelligent are different. They scan for nuance. They look not just at what is being shown, but what is being hidden. Not to judge, but to understand. This level of observation doesn't require advanced education. It requires presence, stillness, focus, the ability to turn down the volume of one's own ego long enough to actually notice what's in front of them. It's a rare discipline in a world obsessed with speed and distraction. But it's the foundation of social power. When you can see more than others, you gain leverage, not to manipulate, but to navigate. You don't get blindsided, you don't get played, you move with awareness, and awareness gives you the edge. This is how the socially intelligent rise, not by force, but by perception. While others are chasing influence through noise, they're building it through insight. And in some situations, insight through wit may be more important than insight. And when they speak, they do so with precision, because they've been listening, watching, learning. Their words carry weight because their mind has absorbed more than most ever notice. That is the advantage of observation. That is the edge of the 1%. Influence is not about force. It is not about overpowering others or bending them to your will. Real influence is subtle, strategic, and rooted in understanding. The socially intelligent person does not seek to dominate conversations or overpower people's opinions. They seek alignment. They study what matters to others, what they fear, what they desire, and where their attention is focused. Influence is created when you position your message to resonate with those elements, not by demanding agreement, but by awakening a shared interest, a deeper recognition, a personal truth. Most people try to persuade by insisting. The socially intelligent persuade by reflecting. They don't say, "Do this because I said so." They show how it already fits the other person's goals, values, and needs. The power of influence lies in the ability to guide others without resistance. You don't push people, you lead them to the conclusion you've already mapped out, but you allow them to arrive there on their own terms. This is not manipulation. Manipulation is self-serving and short-lived. True influence respects the other person's autonomy while guiding them toward a higher outcome. And that kind of influence only comes from understanding people better than they understand themselves. It's the ability to predict how someone will react, not because you control them, but because you've listened so well that their patterns are no longer a mystery to you. You can't influence people if you don't first connect with them, and you can't connect with people unless you're willing to see beyond your own agenda. That's what separates social mastery from social games. One seeks to control, the other seeks to empower, and empowerment always wins in the long run. When people feel seen and understood, they lower their guard. When they feel respected, they become open. When they feel like their thoughts are valued, they begin to trust. And trust is the real currency of influence, not status, not volume, not intellect, but trust. Those ahead of the curve know this. Power over people is fragile. Power through people is indestructible. That is the influence earned through social intelligence. It doesn't shout, it shapes. It doesn't impose, it invites. And that is the kind of influence that lasts. Empathy is often misunderstood as softness, as something passive or overly emotional, but strategic empathy, the kind developed through true social intelligence, is one of the most formidable strengths a person can possess. It is not about feeling sorry for someone or getting swept into their emotions. It's about discerning what someone is experiencing, even when they cannot fully articulate it themselves. Empathy, when used with clarity, becomes a tool of immense insight. It allows you to feel the emotional rhythm of a conversation, to sense what's unspoken, and to respond in a way that calms, connects, and guides. It's not weakness, it's calibration. The socially intelligent don't use empathy to absorb people's burdens. They use it to see clearly. They understand that every person is driven by invisible pressures, personal histories, and emotional battles. When you can identify the emotional state of another person with precision, you instantly gain access to their trust, because now they feel understood, not judged, not corrected, but truly seen. And that is rare. Most people are too consumed by their own perspective to make space for another's. But the person who can hold that space without losing their center becomes invaluable. Empathy also gives you predictive power. When you can read how someone feels before they show it, you can adjust your approach, soften your tone, shift your words. You prevent conflict before it erupts. You de-escalate before emotions boil over. You anticipate needs before they are voiced. That level of responsiveness isn't accidental. It's the result of cultivated empathy. Strategic, steady, and conscious. What makes empathy so powerful is that it transforms communication into connection. You're not just delivering a message. You're delivering it in a way that is emotionally aligned with the person receiving it. And that's where loyalty is born. That's where influence deepens. That's where people begin to follow, not because they have to, but because they want to. Empathy isn't an accessory to intelligence. It's an amplifier of it. When combined with emotional control and deep observation, it becomes one of the most powerful tools in the arsenal of social mastery. Adaptability is the silent strength that supports all social mastery. No two people are the same, and no two situations require the exact same approach. The socially intelligent understand this intuitively. They don't rely on rigid tactics or fixed communication styles. Instead, they adjust. They read the environment, the energy, the pace, and they meet it with precision. Where others try to force every interaction into a familiar mold, the socially intelligent become fluid. They know when to lead and when to listen, when to challenge and when to reassure, when to speak with authority and when to stay silent. This dynamic awareness makes them unpredictable in the best possible way, because they are always aligned with the moment. Being adaptable doesn't mean being passive or weak-willed. It means knowing how to shift without losing your center. It's the ability to move between different roles and temperaments without sacrificing integrity. Adaptable people don't break when the situation changes. They evolve. They don't cling to one way of doing things because their ego demands consistency. Instead, they redefine their approach, often in real time, to match what's truly needed. This is how influence becomes sustainable, not by repetition, but by responsiveness. Those who lack social intelligence often cling to control, to familiarity, to a single method that once worked. But people change, environments shift, conversations bend in unexpected directions. The person who cannot adjust becomes irrelevant, too slow, too stubborn, too stuck. But the adaptable individual becomes indispensable. They are trusted not because they always have the same answers, but because they always know how to respond. They aren't shaken by change, they're activated by it. Social intelligence gives you the agility to remain composed while everything around you fluctuates. You're not anchored to comfort, you're anchored to awareness. That's the difference between those who survive social situations and those who shape them. Any room in any challenge, the adaptable mind sees options where others see limits. And that single quality, refined through awareness, empathy, and emotional control, is what keeps them ahead of the 99%. They don't fight the flow. They move with it, shape it, and in doing so, rise above it. Trust is the currency of all human connection, and the socially intelligent understand how it is earned, protected, and multiplied. Trust is not demanded. It is not a result of authority or expertise alone. It is granted, often slowly, by those who feel safe in your presence. To cultivate that kind of trust, one must consistently embody integrity, not perfection, but consistency, not charm, but congruence between word and action. People trust those who are predictable in their principles, even if they are not perfect in every moment. When your words match your tone, when your intentions match your behavior, and when your presence creates ease rather than tension, you build an unshakable foundation. Socially intelligent individuals never underestimate the subtle tests people run, often unconsciously. They watch how you respond under pressure. They notice how you speak about others when they're not around. They observe whether your energy changes based on someone's status or usefulness, and based on these patterns they decide, safe or unsafe, real or superficial. Trust is not about big declarations. It's built in the smallest interactions, a pause that shows you're listening, a follow-through on something small, a private moment of respect that no one else even notices. These are the micro signals that compound over time and create a deep sense of reliability. Once trust is formed, communication becomes effortless. Walls drop, resistance fades, and loyalty forms, not out of obligation, but out of resonance. But trust, once broken, is difficult to rebuild. This is why the socially intelligent treat it like a sacred bond. They don't manipulate it for short-term gain. They don't gamble with it in moments of pride. They protect it by remaining anchored in awareness, empathy, and truth. People remember how you made them feel when they were vulnerable, when they weren't useful, when they had nothing to offer. Those moments define your reputation far more than any skill or talent. Trust is not a tactic. It's a way of being. And those who master it never need to chase influence. influence begins to follow them, quietly, powerfully, and without resistance. Social intelligence isn't about performance, it's about presence. Social intelligence. It is not something you switch on in a meeting or a negotiation. It is a way of moving through the world with intentional awareness, emotional discipline, and unwavering clarity. The person who consistently sharpens this skill begins to see what others don't see, hear what others overlook, and respond in ways that shift the energy of every interaction. This kind of intelligence doesn't depend on a title, on applause, or on recognition. It thrives in silence, in observation, in the mastery of nuance, and over time it builds a reputation so quietly powerful that it speaks long before you enter the room. Most people wait for circumstances to improve before they elevate their behavior, but those with social intelligence elevate themselves first, and in doing so, they elevate the entire environment around them. They don't just react to situations, they shape them. They don't mirror the chaos, they center it. They don't chase approval, they embody value. This is the difference between those who are easily forgotten and those who become magnetic, the difference between surface charm and lasting impact, the difference between empty persuasion and meaningful influence. To be ahead of 99% is not about having more, it's about seeing deeper. It's not about speaking louder, it's about understanding better. It's not about being perfect, it's about being powerfully intentional in how you navigate people, decisions, and dynamics. And that begins with the courage to stop outsourcing your awareness to the noise around you and start cultivating the clarity within you. In the end, social intelligence is not about being liked by everyone, it's about being respected by those who matter. It's not about bending who you are to please people. It's about strengthening who you are so you can meet people where they truly are. When that happens, you no longer chase success, you attract alignment. And with alignment comes influence. Quiet, steady, undeniable influence. The kind that outlasts applause and echoes in every room you've ever entered.